So that makes it, as the time ticks on, officially 1/4 past. So I'll make a start from there. As I said, feel free to put any questions in the chat. I haven't got a strict agenda, although you can see that I've kind of put some examples of questions there. So I'll have a walk through those and just to kind of see where we're going and go from there. So whatever you want, this session is very much for yours, and we'll go from there. So just as a starting point, how to get to the questions. You'll see that at the side of your control panel, it might be at the top or it might be at the bottom, depending on which device you're working from. There is a chat box. If you do put it to all panelists and all attendees, then we can all share those questions all together and join a link from that way there. So one coming in, sometimes my collaborative pages don't seem to open. Is there a recommended number of pages for one lesson before it might crash, as in 20 pages of collaborative places? So just as a kind of a story around this for everybody here, if I just minimize my questions, change that over to here, we're talking about Smart Learning Suite Online. So Smart Learning Suite Online is a smart online bit of software where you can have the lesson, you can run it synchronously, asynchronously, either running straight from the board or sending out to everybody else as well. So if I just start this, if I just have a look at this lesson here, I'm just going to open it and edit it. You can bring it in as a PDF. And then I've got several ones down the side here, and some of them I can change to collaborative spaces or handouts. This one here, you can see I've changed to a collaborative workspace so everyone can work in that document. I can either put you in different groups or I can work everyone all together from that page there. But essentially, there's not a limit to it. So you can run that session. I'm just going to look at that question again. So there is not a limit to the pages. Each page should work and be sent out collaboratively. You can have the whole document being collaborative, or you can just have select pages being collaborative. And there's not a limited, there's not a recommendation. It will work for all of those. I'm not sure about the crashing and any of those. Hopefully it's just down to some link from your internet, maybe not running quickly enough, but it should be absolutely fine. So I think that might just be a one-off bug. If it does keep happening, please let us know. If you take a recording of the screen and we send that off to our developing team, and we'll kind of have a look at it in depth. But essentially, you should be able to send it out to anybody, and it should work absolutely fine. So you should be okay with that. We have run these collaborative sessions with a whole group of people during these live sessions, and we had up to kind of 70 people join, and they were all okay with it. So I've not come across that beforehand. Just as a kind of brief introduction, if you do want to put any comments in the chat or in the questions, I'll have a look at those. But whilst we're waiting for those, if you are typing, just as a brief introduction to myself, if you haven't joined previously, I am Mark Hartwright, Professional Development for SMART here in the UK. I'm a former teacher and a Smart Exemplary Educator. If anyone wants to know about the Smart Exemplary Educator program, where kind of teachers can come together and share a bit like this, but an online forum, just a sharing of excellence or sharing of learning, we can have a look at that as well. And obviously there's my email contact details there if you want to send out anything else afterwards as well. So I can see that answered the question. Hopefully that's maybe not the greatest answer, but it's an answer you have got there. Awesome. As there's no kind of agenda to this, these are the questions that I kind of pushed out in our kind of, just as a social media push, just kind of what it is in here. Obviously in September, the Ofsted have come out of this week and said that we all need a solution for blended learning, and actually have an approach for it rather than just this. Some schools have had a cobbled together approach, and some schools have done brilliantly. And in previous webinars we've seen how Feasy Park Farm Primary School and Benhurst Primary School have had their approach and how well that's done. But we all need to have an approach for blended learning. Fingers crossed there's no second wave, but obviously the possibility is there, or actually a blended learning style approach bringing into our curriculum so that the way that we deliver learning is actually enhanced by that. And Smart have got a solution for this blended learning. So at the moment I'm using Smart Notebook, which sits on a desktop, whether that's Mac or Windows. It works brilliantly on both. But if you do want to use this as a as an online resource as well, that is when the Smart Learning Suite Online, which I just showed a moment ago, happens as well. That Smart Learning Suite Online file helps you to bring a lesson. You can add a resource to it, whether it's a starting of a blank page, or whether it's starting from a notebook file, a PDF, a PowerPoint, or a slides file. You can import that. Once it's imported, you can then begin to share it out to everybody else as well as adding lots of these game-based resources to that as well. So just as a show here, this is some of the content I've got from here. We could start this lesson. What I do to this is then I invite the students to join. They can join here. I can change this to an individual handout or a collaborative handout. And once they are joined, I can go through this lesson in real time. So as I am inking on the page here, as you can see, as I'm inking there, that will also ink on the students' devices. It runs in collaboration with any other video and conferencing software, whether you're using Teams or Zoom or can't think of any on the top of my head, Google Meets or anything like that. Those can run on the sides, and I can have like a little window, but like you've got now, of me running the screen and sharing my screen that way as well. Then as I move on, the students move on as well. I can change that to student paced. So now that gives the ability for the students to run backwards and forwards within their lesson as well, and very much hands it over to them to be able to add that. If you do want to add in different parts on the fly, whether it's a blank page or a shout out activity where the students can send up their answers to the board, or if you are distance learning, you can send it up to your screen. You can have that shared in that way as well. So that's very much about bringing that static content into very much an interactive resource for that way as well. Also available within there are lots of these activities. Just having a quick check of the question box. There's no questions. Feel free to type any questions in the chat box or in the question and answer box, and I'm monitoring those, and I'll kind of steer the conversation based on what you say there. So within this adding the content there, I've briefly mentioned the shout it out activity here, where you've got students' devices sending up answers there, which is a great, obviously, way of really bringing people together for that for the blended learning thing part of your lesson in a very much asynchronous way. You can also add these game-based activities. I quite often show the fill in the blank, so I'm going to avoid that one today. A nice memory match game here, based on very much a low risk. We're wanting students to have something repetitive, something they can do at their own pace, or try again until they get it correct. Particularly if they're apart and that anxiety of not being in school, we want to just have a go until we get it correct. These are obviously great for that, and it takes that learning a step on with there, and you can see kind of examples of that one there. To make these, if I just click on that, it's very much your content that you want for your students. So you can see here that there's the base of, I might put a noun and put Mark, why not? On this side, and put adjective, and the adjective being slow. Hopefully not linked, a noun being table. Guess where I'm sitting? Table and white. Guess what color my table is? We'll click finish with that, and then there we have made that activity. Very quick and easy to make, but very engaging for your students, where they can quickly play this game and have it. You can send a link out so that then the students can have, I'll just preview this. So send me that link out so the students can then replay this over and over again. And if they're playing with siblings or somebody at home in that way, or if it's just a one player, you've got the sound as well. And then we've got a mark is a table. Nope. We've got slow is not a table. Let's try and get the last one. So white and table are both adjectives. Just as an example there, not the greatest example I've ever made, but you can see how that matching pairs happens. If I do want to then send that out, if I've got this little 3 dots here, I click on those 3 dots, I can share that link, and then that becomes a sharing teacher resource, or I can share that link with a student link. Once I've got that student link there, I can copy that and put it into any support network you've got, whether that's something like Seesaw, whether that's something like Teams, or in Canvas, or in Google Drive, or your Google Classroom, or just posting on a secure part of the website, or indeed putting in a QR code and kind of sending it out that way if you wish. But it's just a link, and you can post that or even text it to parents if you wish for that side of things as well. So I can still see there's no questions coming in, so I'm just going to jump back to other ones here. So this is very much a solution for blended learning, as well as all that sort of side of things. I wanted to focus on the hardware itself. So the hardware for smart, something, I mean, we're all familiar with the term the smart board, and it's something that I taught on and I find absolutely fantastic. But why should we look at smart as opposed to any other ones as well? Just to kind of look at that. And also I've got my school have got brand new smart boards help, and I'll kind of look at those in kind of both the same bracket here. So if I just jump down briefly here, just to kind of address the couple of smart boards that we do have on offer. This one here is our entry level. This is the MX range. It comes in a 65, 75 and 86-inch boards, and they are brilliant. And you've just kind of got some kind of things on here. We have got HyperTouch in all of them, and they have the same software runs on all of those as well, and quick and easy for you to use. I'm just going to see a note in the chat. Is there a way to organize your files other than a chronological order in Smart Learning Suite Online? Yeah, I'll come to that in a moment. Just in fact, I'll come back to the boards in a moment. I'm going to jump over to this organization of boards here, organization of files. So yes, I completely agree that the way that we look at this is the Smart Learning Suite Online. To get access this, you can either go to suite.smarttech.com or go to hellosmart.com. And the way that they are organized at the moment is very much today's files, yesterday's files, last week, and older, which I completely agree is not a great way of organizing all of those files. The way that we have done that is we have focused on the delivery of the lesson, because that's the way that Smart have always focused on, that software for the hardware being able to deliver your lesson and make it interactive and intuitive for the students to work on. And then in Smart Notebook, it's very much focusing on the delivery of that. With Smart Notebook sitting on the desktop, the way that we have organized that is just within your normal file management software. For example, here, I've got all my notebook files here, organized within my account here, and then I've synced those with my OneDrive so I can access those in that way. The way we have gone with that, the first thing we approached is Google. And I'm just going to minimize my chat box. I know you can't see it, but there it is. So within the Google account, you have got obviously your Google Drive. I'm just going to click on it there. So within your Google Drive, you can organize all those lessons in this way here. So you've got ones for your classroom, you've got a Smart Learning Suite Online. There might be different formats. I did some training in Wolverhampton, and those my files for that there. And you can organize these files within your Google Drive the way you want. Within Google Drive, you can see that this one here is my distance learning file. This one here is a Smart Notebook file, so you can't open it within Google Drive. But actually, if you right-click on it, you can open with Smart Learning Suite Online. And that's the way that we're fully integrated with Google Classroom and G Drive, the fact that you've got them organized within the Google Drive, but then you open them in that way. To be able to access this little plugin here, it does mean your administrator does need to put them that way, does need to enable that plugin to support that way for that. Now, yes, that's organized in that way, and that's great if you're Google using. If you're, I'm just trying to guess the question here that is saying for, I'll come to that in a moment. If you have, also, if you name a common way, you can name it by name alphabetically. Yes, that's a great thing, Louise. I'll speak to that in a moment. So also that's organizing within the Google Drive. We are integrated with Google Teams, the fact that you can, in Microsoft Teams, the fact that you can put your lessons into it and organize them and send them out to your lessons, send them out to your students that are linked in with your teams. We are not fully integrated in the fact that you can right click and open with Smart Learning Suite Online yet. That is being worked on, and that release is imminent. We should have that any moment now, where the fact that you can post these to Teams and you can teach straight from within Teams, open with your Smart Learning Suite Online file in that way, but that is coming in that way. So Louise, thanks for answering that question. You can just say here, so yes, they are organized within date here. Also, you can also organize them by the name as well. So it's just up to, and I'll just click that just to kind of show here that these are the ones that start with a number, these are the ones that start alphabetically, and as I go down, we can do those. So it's just, if you are organizing them within the Smart Learning Suite Online way, then it's up to you kind of how you organize and how you name them. And obviously, if you do want to edit the names, then they can be edited. And then you can change the name of that at the top here. I've just put copy of for this one, just because I've got that as an example there. So you can change the copy of that at the side there. Or in turn, if you want to list them all, you have got that organization of just a list at the top, as opposed to seeing them organized in that way. And that is just the way you kind of want to do it. So yes, we've got some organization within Smart Learning Suite Online, but the organization is also fully integrated with your Google Drive. You can post them within Teams, and then the full integration with Teams is coming soon for that as well. So thanks for that question, and thanks for that answer, Louise, as well. If you have got any other questions, feel free to put those into the chat, and I will kind of look at those. And if you haven't got any, then I'll just carry on with the way that we've got as well. I will just flash up this card as well. If there are any other questions you do want to email me later, feel free to email me at markhartwright@smarttech.com for that as well. So just kind of jumping back to where I was before that question came in, but thanks for that question. It was a great one. This is the MX board here, Hypertouch, so it's really accurate to write on. This does use enhanced infrared for you to work on. And again, the software is across all of them and works well. So you can access your Smart Learning Suite Online. If you are plugging in a desktop, or Windows or Mac, then you can use Smart Notebook for that as well. Also within the board, there are lots and lots of different applications for the whiteboard, which come with templates and different widgets and stuff like that, as well as being able to access the App Store or looking at the just a browser built in for that as well. It also comes with a native screen share, so you can cast up different devices, whether that's Chrome or iPads or any Android device as well, or Windows that can work kind of across that as well as lots of different sensors and pen differentiation as well. So meaning you can write with the pen, you can write with the pen, you can write with your finger and the palm of your back of your hand as that as well as lots of different features with that, which I won't kind of allude to too much. The other offering is a 6000F, which has all the great features of the other one, but this one as well has the simultaneous tool differentiation massively. So it's got something like we've called tool sense in it, where you can have multiple people writing on multiple different pens, 20 points of touch on Windows and Mac as well as 10 points if you are plugging in a Chrome box as well, which is very much unique to Smart. And from in there, you can have lots of different people writing on lots of different pens and kind of have the access to that as well as something called tool sense. Tool sense is where you are taking an object and you can use that as a stamper to put up on the board for that as well. That is still very much work in progress, but the idea, if we're having something a bit like a Numicon or something like that, and you've got that stamp of that concrete object and you can stamp that onto the board, so then a digital representation of that physical object comes on there. Very much a link between the concrete pictorial moving towards the abstract afterwards as well, for that as well as lots of different light sensors, etc., for that board as well. So that is on the board there. If you want more detail about that, I can jump on that and we can have a kind of a conversation about that in detail. But looking at time there, I just want to kind of circle back to some of these other questions. That, as an example here, I've used the free trial. Very much, we offered everybody a free trial, obviously to support the current times, and as we're beginning to the end, I was going to say winding up to the end of term, but very much some schools have just starting back up again to introducing more students back into the classroom. So yes, you've got that free trial. You can extend that trial if you do wish to, or if you are coming to the end of your trial, then it's what next? Then we can support you with getting in touch with a reseller if you want to continue to make use of all those different features. If you are using the basic version and you want to continue doing that, then that is something there that is free for you to use and continue to use as well. But if you do want more support about pricing, about where do you actually make that purchase from, feel free to drop me an email. We can kind of support you with that as well. Or just to find out what features are available to you, then we can talk about that in a bit more length as well. Hopefully I've covered the different platforms Smart works on, the Windows, the Mac, Chromebooks, Chromeboxes, it works on all of those. Obviously, it being an online version, the online version Smart Learning Suite Online works on any web browser. We normally say use Chrome just as a starting point, but it does work across any browser, across any device that supports web browsers for that as well. And then the last kind of point there before I kind of look at any other questions is, does it work with Chromebook? Yes, it does. And we have got multiple, like I said, 10 points of touch working within a Chromebook, Pixels, all of those as well, which is very much unique to Smart, and working within the different applications as well. You can add the ink to all of those as well. So judging by the time there, that is just a quick 20-minute slot. I've answered a few of your questions, so I'll very much just leave it open to the floor. If you do want to put those question answers for that as well, I'd love to kind of hear how you are working, the challenge of sharing your practice. If you have used the trial, if you do use it long term, how is it being used? How are you doing that used? Feel free to reach out to me directly. Or if you do want to put it on the Smart social channels, obviously feel free to do that as well. Next week, we're back into the proper webinar, if you want to look at it, supporting the social and emotional needs of our children. As we're bringing a few students back into the classroom now, I think the more and more it's very prevalent that not having that social interaction with students, not having that social interaction with their peers, and all of a sudden we're being thrown back in and being a little bit different. It can meet some of those needs kind of becoming more of a forefront. So how can the Smart solution support that for yourself as well, with an eye of coming back into September with fingers crossed everyone back into school as well. But that social and emotional learning being very key for that, and kind of research around saying that it's very important as well. And of course, the bespoke support for those training packages as well, whether that's running a webinar for yourselves, for your team, or whether that's coming into schools and supporting you and your staff or your students on with the Smart solution, and how it can kind of support you and obviously all your needs moving forwards as well. So just jumping back onto the questions here, I've just seen one coming here. Thank you, Emma, for adding your question here. The old notebook activities are a lot clearer, not childish templates, which are great. They don't seem to be working within Smart Learning Suite. Current versions are obviously child focused, but there are any templates which are more adult focused. Yes, I'll just jump to a blank page here. So within these activities here, these activities are available within Smart Notebook. They're also available online as well. If I just kind of look at the fill in the blanks here and just a template, just as an example, hello, I should have set up, I've got one already made. Yes, these are quite child focused here. You have got a simple template. That simple template is very much focused on a blank, something that you can use for everybody there, with that clear background where we haven't got any text on that as well. If I do just jump over to this one, I've got some supporting at the end. So this is a label reveal template. So you add in your image and then you add in your hotspots, if you like, for these, for whatever content you want for your subject. So these are very much whatever you want for them, putting your context in that as well. The flip out cards is an example of that blank background. This one here, again, you can send these out to students. These are also available online, as well as within Notebook here, where I've got a kind of flip out where we've got the chemical symbol and something in the background. So it's very much based on what you want to add in for that support there. Something like super sort. Now, super sort, I will just say this one here, we have added the ability within Supersort to put a custom background. So I've got the two kind of lists here, but then here I've got a custom background. Within that custom background here, if I just select that and click on next, we've got the ability to change the order and change the template as well. So your background here, you can add in a template of anything you want. Being a primary school teacher myself, I put this, and when I added an image, I put, I haven't got it to hand at the moment, I put a template of a Tudor background. So it had a Tudor throne room at the background. And then within those, I had different crowns or not a crown. So it looked at sorting the Tudor monarchy into the ones that were Tudor crowns and ones that weren't. And those were kind of examples for that as well. Those are also available online. And also there are additional ones online, for example, where we've used the monster quiz, which, yes, it can be very much a primary school focus. Although I've had this used with secondary school and they've love it. We've also added this team quiz here, which is very much the same framework, but removing the monsters, if you like. So it's a team where you've got one team against another team answering the questions on device, but looking at just filling in the ring, if you like, for the support on there as well. So it's, have a go. You'd be surprised how much your students love it. Obviously for adult learners, it might need a caveat of this is just focused, but essentially it's a game and we kind of all love playing games as well for that there. So hopefully that answers some of the questions. You're welcome, Emma. I hope that I've kind of answered for that one there for that. But feel free to kind of ask a question, and we can work together if there's something more focused that you wish to look at for that as well. So I can't see any more notes that have come through in the questions. I hope that's answered there, and there's nothing else in the chat box as well. Just have a quick scan down of it. Nope, there's nothing through coming on that. So I'll kind of leave it open. Oh, there's one come through. Christina, thank you for this. We can give homework to our students that have maths, that have to answer a complex maths. Sorry, read it properly. We can give homework to students and have the answers to complex math questions, like in Supersort. Yes, you can use it to send homework. Maths complex questions, you can just put them in type in there, and then you can, if you change it to an individual handout, then they can use it to annotate over the top. So they've got that annotation for the maths questions, as well as being able to add typed in that as well. If you bring in a lesson which is brought in through a notebook file already made, which has got squared paper, then that squared paper will translate into your Smart Learning Suite online and bring it in there as well. Christina, if you have any other support for that, then feel free to ask me directly, and we can have a chat for that as well.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay. Okay. I was just wondering, really, because I'm a supply teacher, so yeah. I don't have access to school. A lot of the equipment that I would if I was working in a school on a regular basis.
Cool.
And I have used Smart in schools as well, but do you have any facilities for tutors in particular to use your whiteboards?
Okay, so we've just seen a couple of people join us. We've just had a question of supply teachers. What provision do we have for them, essentially? So we've got the hardware, but essentially we've got the software as well. So the software is Smart Notebook, and as well Smart Learning Suite. There's an online version, and then there's the desktop version. The one that you can see now is our desktop version. That one you can download and use for free. So if you are preparing any resources for schools, then you can make them in Smart Notebook and use them when you go into school. Two things, a kind of a little caveat there. I mean, I did supply, and when I did it, I had a bank of resources on Smart Notebook. But then obviously, if you're then going into a school and they haven't got Smart Notebook loaded, then obviously it won't work on that. I did take my desktop, and obviously I had to ask permission to be able to plug that in and use it that way. So that is one option that you could have as a supply teacher. If you are doing home tutoring and stuff like that, you can still use the software on your home laptop and deliver it in the same way as you would in the classroom, but just delivering it from a desktop instead. The other way to do it would be through the online version. Now, the difference, the smart notebook, which sits on your desktop, most of it is free in the basic version, apart from a few games and a few YouTube add-ons and things like that, which use the cloud. So if you are looking to just use it, the free version, then go for that. If you do want the premium version, which includes the whole online software and some of the games within the desktop version, then that is the premium version. It is about, we'd have to, pricing, we go through resellers. Roughly speaking, it's about £20–30 per user per year. So if you just wanted to buy your own personal license for that, we can sort that out if you wanted that. The online version itself means that you can put your lesson in the cloud and you can have those lessons prepared at home or wherever. And then when you are turning up to the school, you can run it through a web browser and deliver your lessons that way. If students have got devices, they can share, they can join in that lesson as well, even if the school don't use Smart for that side of things as well. Does that kind of make sense, Ruth?
That's fantastic. Yes, thank you.
Okay. If you want more information on kind of where to look at that, if you go to the Smart Tech website, which is just smarttech.com, you can kind of have a browse around in there. It's a bit of a minefield. There's quite a lot in it. So I know you've got my email address. So if there's any kind of specific questions, feel free to look my way. There's also the Smart Support YouTube channel, which has got quite a lot of learning points on there as well. So cool. Everyone else that's on the call as well, I'm just going to kind of allow, if you want to open your mics, you're more than welcome. If you just want to leave it as you have, then you're more than welcome. I've just explained to Ruth earlier, this is very much just an open-ended discussion, question and answers for you here. You can see I've kind of put some vague questions that I thought that might pop up, so I'm happy to just run through those. But essentially, if you've got something to share, then go for it, ask those questions. Shaylee, I've seen you've opened your mic. Is there a question for you?
Yeah. I'd like to know, because I work with students with dyscalculia, and a lot of the time we play maths games.
Yeah.
Is there a way of making your own games so that you can have either dominoes face down and then you select some, or cards so that you can have in one stack and you can turn them over? I know the flip out activity, but it doesn't really do what I want it to do. Or maybe
okay.
a different platform, a question, I'm not sure.
No, that's fine. I will kind of give you as much advice as I can, but yeah, I mean, essentially it's some of the things that you want specific things for the specific needs of your specific children. And it doesn't always, in this kind of one size fits all software, it doesn't always work for you. So I'll try my best. I'll give you a few different examples. So like you said, this is the flip out cards here. You can, if I just show kind of everybody else how we made these here. What I've got is face up all of those, face down all of those. I can continue adding all of these down here. So I can have lots and lots of different cards. And then if there's not room on the page, they do kind of have a bank in the middle of the screen as well. So you have got those. So you can have, I know there is one online where it has done with a whole bank of cards. So face up, you have got the kind of the red face, and on the face down, you have got, because you can add pictures as well. To add that there. Is that something that would tick that box, or
I didn't know that if you had too many that would stack in the middle.
Let's just see. Just make loads there, and we'll go down the same the other side. and click next. So there are some different backgrounds as well. I'm just going to go for the monsters.
Yeah.
It's a bit more colourful than the playing cards. There you go. So you can see that as I open these ones here, this one I can open. Once I've got it, I can discard it into the pile there, and then that one will bring out to the top there.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works. And can you actually change the background? I mean, because they, without all the monsters and everything, where you make your own and set it. I know how to do that on a blank page, but I don't know how to do it in an activity.
Okay, so within here you can add an image. So if I added an image on the front of it, where have I got some images saved?
It's not on the individual card, on the screen itself.
The monster in these monsters at the side, the green one.
Yeah.
So those ones there are just these generic backgrounds to start with.
Yeah, okay. But you can't create your own?
No, not yet. That is being worked on.
Okay.
So, for example, the super sort that we've got, which is another one of those activities that's in this activities that like Space Invaders word I'm looking for. It's a bit like a Space Invader at the top there. That's where they all are. So this one here, you can see that these are the pirate theme. This is a super sort. So this one here, just like the other game here, I type in exactly what I want on both sides, click next, and then from there I've got a custom.
Yes, yeah, I noticed that one there.
Yeah, that custom means that I can add my own image for the background and add my own image for these here. That is being worked on to come across all the other games as well, but it just hasn't. It hasn't happened. It hasn't been released for the all of the games, but it will be. It is being worked upon.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's just jump over to there. Oops, wrong one. Is there any other questions that have kind of come through? I can see that Belinda's joined as well. I'm just gonna, if you want an option, Khalid, Belinda, if you want to open your mics and just ask a question, feel free, or leave it closed. Just as a kind of a few things here, I did a very similar webinar at lunchtime. We looked at blended learning and kind of want a solution for that. We looked at a brief overview of hardware, or kind of a getting started for smart boards, or using Chrome, or working with other platforms. As also if I think some people have joined because they've had a free trial, which has obviously been very relevant at the moment, and then kind of what next, what support can be offered. So if you'd like me to talk about any of those, you're more than welcome.
So what's the simplest and cheapest version of the smart board that you could, or you would recommend for so like because I tutor from home and go into school, so one that you could have at home?
Okay, we do offer a podium. So a podium is, I think it's about 40, 50 inches. I can't remember the top off my head, but it's essentially a kind of a desktop size. It might even be less than that, may even be 30 or something. I should probably know that. So it's essentially, it's a big touch screen computer, but it works like a smart board. From that there, you plug in your computer around the back, and then it just works normal. It comes with a stylus, or you can use your finger with it. And then it has got an output as well, if you do want to link it to a larger display. But yes, very good for home learning.
Is that portable then? Could you take it in with you into school? Okay. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Under the arm, off you go.
Fantastic. Thank you.
If you do want to find more information, if you look at smarttech.com, I know there's some stuff on it there, or I can find a link and send it over to you if you wanted me to.
I'll have a look and email you if I can't find it. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm unsure of pricing on that as well, but we'll find something. Super. So with that, if you were to get that Podium as well, that would come with a year's license for the whole software as well.
Right.
So you'd be able to have the online version as well as the desktop version, the full experience for that as well.
Okay.
And then, like I said, it's roughly speaking £20–30 per year if that's something you want to carry on using.
Mark,
Linda, yes. Hello.
If we were going to buy the smart package just to use at home, how much is that?
Are you talking about the hardware, or are you talking about the software now?
Yeah, just to access it on your computer yourself at home.
Okay. Have you got the software at school?
No.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is if you have got the software at school, you have got the license, and your license covers you for anywhere.
Yeah.
So if you are logging into your school computer, your home computer, PPA room, wherever it might be, your license covers you for any device that you are using.
Yeah.
So in the same way that if you bought your own personal license, you could install the software at school and use it at school, and that would be fully within the terms and work well. Even if you're on competitive boards, you could still use like that. Roughly speaking, per person, it's about £20 or £30 for that individual license.
Oh, is
that
it
would
really?
go through.
That's not bad. I'm quite pleased with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you think of it.
So if I paid £30, I can then just use it at home.
And school, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really interested in that. So do I just email you?
Yeah, if you want to. The way Smart work is we go through resellers, so I can put you in touch with a reseller, and they can sort you out with that.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem at all. Do you use Smart at school currently, or?
I have used Smart before, but my current school just doesn't use it.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is, have you got smart boards within the school or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just because we charge one fee, and then we heavily discount that if you've got a smart board. So that's why I want to make sure we go through the complete red tape. If you're using it, if you might be using it on a smart board, if you can kind of get my drift, then that discount can be applied. So.
What if I'm thinking of perhaps changing and leaving? If I leave there and I just carry on paying it at home, and then would that change the fee?
To be transparent about it, we charge roughly about £100 per license. But then if you are working on a smart board, then we discount that, roughly speaking, about 70%, which takes it down to the £30-ish.
Yeah.
So if there is a smart board within your school and you will be using it on that some of the time, then we're happy to apply the discount and have it for that price there. And obviously, if you're going into a new school, then that would kind of need to apply as well. I'm not sure of all the terms and conditions and red tape around that. When I was teaching, it was just I had the license and kind of used it in that way, and let kind of the business manager look after that side of things.
Okay, so if you're not in a school, it's £100.
If you're not using it on a smart board at some point, then yes, it is that. It will be that fee. Yeah.
That's still fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay. Well,
if you were going to do supply and you wanted to use it at home, start it, and then go in, that would then be about £100.
Yes, I'm led to believe so. I'm not sure if there is some discrepancy we can offer for supply teachers. I would have to speak to a reseller. I kind of do the teaching side of things rather than the pricing side of things.
Yeah.
So I can speak to somebody and see if there is some kind of halfway house where we can support you with that. But I wouldn't like to make a false promise. But we can definitely work with something, I would have thought.
Okay, so do you think I'm very happy for someone to get in touch with me? Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I can send you an email, and and we can kind of go from there. I've just jotted your name down so I can I'll find your contact details anyway, or if you just want to email me directly with specifically what you need to kind of go through that side of things, we can.
Oh, marvellous. Is it just questions today from people?
Yeah. Yes, very much so. I'm aware that most of the time I kind of bombard everybody with everything. So next week, I'll just kind of jump on to next week's being back into the proper routine of things. We're going to look at social emotional needs of the pupils and how smart software and hardware can support that. But I just thought nearing the end of term, let's just pause for a moment and give people the opportunity to join and ask any of these little questions that sometimes don't always pop up week by week.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, thank you. I've loved it. I found it really good, all this. So thank you very much.
Good. No, not a problem at all.
Okay, I'll hear from you soon then.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, God, my battery's gone.
If there are any other questions there's just one popped up in the chat as well. Thanks for popping it on there. Ruth's jumping off as well. Thank you very much, Ruth. I'm glad you could join us. And Shaylee has put her hand up, and that's great. I can unmute you.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
So I've been creating some 4 in a row games, a bit like tic-tac-toe, but for reading. Yep. And so I've locked the table with the words in, and then Infinite cloned some shapes at the side so the student can grab them and put them in the box. But it then actually locks the shape in the box as well, and I'm just not quite sure what I've done wrong.
No, that's fine. So just to roughly get, so you've used a table, a bit like this one here.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to bring that to the top. So you've put some words in there.
Yeah.
That one goes in there.
Yeah.
And really original vocabulary I've got today.
It's fine.
So yes, so those words are locked in there. And then you want to bring them out.
No, so then what I've done is, so they're all there for when the student does it and they choose a word, read the word, and then I've got some shapes, so like the star shape and the heart shape that I've infinite cloned.
Yeah.
And then they drag the shape over the word. But I think I must have locked, when I lock the table, so there, and it's putting an automatic lock on it. Is that because I've locked the whole table?
So is it because that do you not want it to go into the cell?
So in case they rushed and they put it there, and I wanted to check actually was that the correct word and drag it back out, it would be handy to be able to do so. And then appears
and still have the initial word appearing there.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you mean now. Can I? I've not experienced exactly what we're doing here. No, so you can see there that if I hover that shape over the top, it will always go into that cell, and there's no, if you like, there's no way around that.
Of getting it back out. Okay.
Yeah, the way I would do that, just to be slightly different. I'm just going to write it in now. Oh dear, it's one of those, isn't it? If I've got my words there, or I could obviously type them as well. If I've got those typed there, what I can do now is I can lock those, lock in place. And then if I was creating that one there and infinitely clone this one, I could then just put them over the top.
Yeah, it was just for me lining the words up, really. I know I could line it up, so that's fine. I can do it without putting it in a table. Thank you.
Yeah, you have got, if you look in Edit and Preferences, you have got the ability to, where am I looking? Alignment.
Oh, no, that's another question. Sorry.
There it is.
If anybody
so view, no, it's fine. View alignment.
Yeah.
If you've got here, you can actually make your things all snap to grid and line up and things like that.
Okay.
So that, I mean, it's got to be exactly right. It's got to be just so. So things like that will appear.
Okay.
If I just turn all those on there, then I can kind of, that heart there, and you can see those lines kind of help match it up. So then you can, if you're obviously doing with words, that would help you as well.
Okay. And then how do you turn that off again? Because I've also made, I suppose, well, let's pretend it's a QWERTY keyboard on there.
Yeah.
That's cloned, so they can drag the letters down. Because I've had that on to line them up, when they click and pull, the alignment bars come up, and it's sort of off-putting.
Yeah, no, when I taught with this, and I used to have my alignment turned on at home when I was creating the stuff, but then my classroom computer, I didn't have it on.
Okay, so you just go back in and switch it off again.
Yeah, but it's essentially, it's just exactly the same there, taking them off.
Brilliant.
You can still snap the objects there.
Okay.
But it doesn't actually show the lines. So the fact that they would go here, it's not going to do it now. It does. No, it's not even doing that. Well, there you go then. But that's how you just have to adjust those settings for when you're using it at home or when you're using it at school or wherever like that.
Okay, that's lovely. Thanks.
No problem. Just a few other people joined as well. Just so you kind of get an understanding, we're just very much a Q&A session. We've jumped around a little bit. So feel free to, I've given you ability to unmute yourself if you want to. So feel free to ask a question and go from there. And I'll kind of stick around and answer any questions you wish. Or feel free to drop off if there's anything specific to say. Just in that pause there, I'll just kind of reiterate that this is just a Q&A dropping in. Next week, we are running a more formal session. I'll be standing in front of the board again and having a look at this subject here, looking at supporting the social emotional needs of our pupils, very much returning back to school. And some have been away and some have been lacking the social and emotional needs or just need a bit of a top up. So we kind of look at that and see how both the hardware and software kind of can foster that and kind of support you in your delivery of that side of the curriculum as well as the other side of the curriculum as well. And of course, if you do want kind of more personalized approach, yes, we've got these little Q&As like this. I've just got a sneeze coming. I think it's gone. Feel free to email me directly. Contact details are there, and we can set up a bespoke training package, whether it's something remote like this, or it's me coming into school, or however that might be in current situations. Right, I think I'll bring it to a close. So thanks again for everyone for joining. Hopefully that's been useful. And like I said, join next week for this one here, where we can work together to see how SMART supports your social emotional needs as well. And I'll be back in front of my screen to really share those with you for that support for you as well. Great. Well, thanks again for joining. And I will stop sharing here. There are no more questions coming in. So thanks again for joining, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.